Finish him!
What's up, team? Nsima, the Centaur Inyang here. So you probably just saw that clip of me dying during the bench press. Yeah, the bar came down. I dropped it on my chest, but it wasn't that bad. I'm not hurt, I'm not bruised, so everything's all good. Today, squat, bench, deadlift. I deadlift conventional. I think it was 3x5 at 455, controlled eccentric. Squat, 3x8 at 355, high bar, controlled concentric and eccentric, and then bench. I supersetted with the squat to save some time, 3x8 by 275, but today's the Q&A, like I mentioned, so we're going to try not to waste too much time and answer as many questions as we can. Looking for the video to be less than 10 minutes, but I don't think that's gonna be possible because I wanna get some of these questions out of the way. So what I need you guys to do is, if your question wasn't answered, ask that question in the comment section of this video. And if you have any questions for next week's Q&A, ask those questions too. Questions that I think are gonna be more specific to you, I'm gonna answer them in the comment section. And questions that I think are applicable to the mass audience or to a lot of people, I'm gonna answer in the Q&A next week. Okay? All right, cool. So, question. When it comes to my extremities, like my arms, my biceps have actually lost size within this past year because I've been focusing on things like that because I do multiple sports now. But I've been able to gain probably a little bit of size in my back, a little bit of size in my chest. I may have lost a little bit of, superficial muscle in my quads, but I'm much stronger than I used to be. Actually, I think my quads might have stayed the same, so that's not a big issue. But I do know that if I ever were to do bodybuilding again and increase my accessory volume, I would probably gain that muscle right back with a little bit more. It's not conducive to my goals when it comes to the jiu-jitsu and lifting. It's not really gonna help me by doing a lot of bodybuilder accessory right now. It'll just tax me so much that I won't be able to perform where I need to perform. So when you're a multi-sport athlete, you probably don't have the goal of being as aesthetic as you'd want as possible. You have the goal of performing as well as you can with the specific sports that you're working in. So for me, doing all that accessory work just doesn't make sense, and I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of muscle mass to be able to perform at a higher level. I think that I have a lot of long-term goals. So I have like 1-year goals, 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and actually 15-year goals. So I have very long-term goals, and I think that I look towards my long-term goals a lot to keep me motivated, because on the days that I don't want to do certain things, I remember that if I am going to get to those long-term goals, I need to just get my shit done. Also, it is always good having smaller goals leading to that big goal, because if you have a big, giant goal that you're trying to achieve, right? And you don't necessarily know the steps that you're gonna take to get there, or the way you need to maneuver yourself to get towards that goal, then it's just gonna seem like a dream. But if you've set specific things that you wanna do and finish, people you wanna meet, etc., that are gonna help you get towards that long-term goal, it seems much more realistic. So the answer to that question is, have a big goal, and then have multiple small goals that are gonna help you get to that big goal. Cool. No, squat shoes don't necessarily help. What squat shoes help with is reducing dorsiflexion, so you don't have to have as much ankle mobility when you enter the bottom of a squat. They may actually also help you hit depth in an easier fashion, but they don't help you losing position at the bottom of your squat. What is gonna help you that is actually some assistance work. One assistance exercise, pause squats. I would say that, let's say your max is 405 pounds in your squat. What I would do is maybe take, initially, since you've probably never done pause squats before, take 275, 285, and work on going down to the hole, pausing for literally 2 to 3 seconds, record yourself, and make sure that as you're coming out of the hole, you're keeping your hips engaged, you're spreading the floor at the knees a little bit to push the knees outwards, physically pushing the knees outwards. And then also, as you're coming out of the hole, a good cue that I've talked about in past videos is imagining there's a train behind you and pushing your back backwards. That'll also make sure that you get your torso upright as you're coming out of the hole. And especially with pause squats, it's gonna reinforce those mechanics so that when you do start working with heavier weight again, you're gonna start realizing that you'll be implementing these cues you've been using during pause squats. They're very, very good accessory work to look for where your holes are. If you're doing pause squats and you find yourself you're doing the same thing you were doing in heavy weight while losing position, it's probably a good idea to lower the load that you're doing on those pause squats. But if you do pause squats correctly, they're gonna help you get rid of those problems. So typically the way I have my training style and the way I program for other people is you'll have 4 to 5 weeks of a progressive training scheme or whatever. We'll have a deload week. Depending on how difficult that training cycle was, it could be 1 week. Sometimes they have 2 deload weeks if they've worked with more volume than they ever have in the past. After those 2 deload weeks, they'll then go into a max testing week and then straight into another training cycle. So I would suggest that minimum, give yourself 1 deload week. Lower your overall intensity of your load. So bring the intensity down. Intensity means your percentage of your 1 rep max. Lower your volume a tad, even lower your accessory volume. And then that'll prime you so that it's almost like a mini taper, so that the next week when you're gonna be trying to perform and get some 1 rep maxes, you'll be recovered, fatigue will be dissipated just enough so that you can hit some good PRs. So yes, I suggest you deload. So I wouldn't suggest that. What I would, you can, okay, you can do that. But the thing is, when you have an incline bench press and a flat bench press in the same exact training cycle, what tends to happen is they interfere with each other a lot. You're just increasing the angle when you're doing an incline bench press, and you're pushing a decent amount of volume probably when you're incline bench pressing. I would suggest that instead of using the incline bench press in the same training cycle with the flat bench press, you go ahead and use an incline dumbbell incline dumbbell press, or like a hammer strength incline press as an accessory movement, so that first off you can build those upper pectoral regions, because you know generally more muscle does equal that you could potentially be stronger, and it won't have such a big effect on what you're able to push with the flat bench press. It's possible, but you got to make sure that if you do use the incline bench press and you really want to use it, have that volume be fairly low and work with really high rep ranges. So let's just say, as an example, your incline bench press max is 315 pounds. You'll probably be using 200 pounds, 210 pounds for sets of 8 at like an RPE 6 or 7. I don't like using RPE, but that just means that you're gonna have 3 to 4 reps in the tank after every single set of your incline bench press. Try and progress that load while keeping it at a low RPE. You'll still be able to induce hypertrophy and gain a little bit of muscle, but at the same time, it's not going to interfere with how your flat bench press is progressing through your training cycle. Yes, increasing your volume and working with the lighter loads in general is going to help you improve your form over time, especially if you have one of the key goals of making all of your reps look the same while you're working with that weight. Generally, a lot of lifters get very excited, especially when they're newer. They want to go heavy often, they want to max out every other week, but that really isn't going to help you execute the lifts in a consistent fashion. So it is a good idea to work with loads. Let's just throw out some percentages, anywhere between 60 and 75% of your 1 rep max, for anywhere between like 60% loads you could typically work with for some people 7, for some other people 10 reps, and for like 75% loads you could typically work somewhere between 6 to 8 reps. And you want to make sure that reps 1 through 8 or 1 through 10, you want to make sure that you're executing the lift the same way every single time you do it. As a first-year lifter, whatever you do is going to allow you to make progress. But one thing is, think about it. We've mentioned this before, we've talked about this. Typically, if you have more muscle, right, you have more potential to be stronger. But, you know, just because you're really strong doesn't mean you're going to be really big. So I would say that you want to do these things at the same time. Similar to a power building type of thing. You're going to have, and also you don't want to lift too heavy too often as a new lifter. So stick with your lifts anywhere between 60 and 85% of your 1 rep max, right? And you work with those type of loads. So this is between like the 4 to 8 to 9 rep range in your compound movements. Then also have a lot of accessory movements, bodybuilder movements that are gonna help you gain muscle over time, because you can gain muscle and strength at the same time. And especially as a new lifter, you're gonna be gaining strength and muscle really fucking fast for, I don't know, 2 years or even 3 years until you start to taper. So I'd say do both at the same time, but do not undermine hypertrophy as a strength athlete. A lot of strength athletes don't do their accessory work and they're really small. You're leaving a lot of strength out on the table if you don't try and get bigger. So also have that as your secondary goal. But don't work with too heavy weights too often, especially as a newer lifter, because you're gonna be gaining strength either way. So focus on form, focus on trying to gain some muscle, and strength or higher intensity loads shouldn't really be something you worry about. Think about it. Let's say you don't work calves often, and because you don't work calves, they're really small, but you do a lot of leg press, you do a lot of squats, so you have decent quads. There's going to be a cap to how big of a lift you can get if the base you have, right? If your calves, which are under your quads, can't handle a lot of load, especially at the bottom of your squat. Now, it's not like they're a main mover, but when you do come out of the hole, your quads and your calves are gonna be pretty active. You're gonna be pushing up from those muscles. Now, they don't play a massive role, but they do play into your peak potential as a lifter. So if you don't work calves and you notice that your calves are a big lagging muscle group for you, that's probably something you should do and work on. I think that's it, because I answered a lot of questions. I'm not even sure if all the questions that I answered are gonna make it into the video, but I'm very happy that you guys asked all of these questions. And like I said, if there's a lot of questions, and maybe I know that there's a lot of good questions in there, I might do a Q&A twice a week, but this week I might probably only gonna have this one. Anyway, ask questions for next week's Centaur Q&A, number 3, which is next week. Ask those new questions below. If I didn't get to your question in this video, remember, re-ask it in the comment section. And I never say this, but I noticed a lot of people do watch these videos, and it gets a decent amount of likes. So if you actually got something from this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you got nothing from this video, you could still give it a thumbs up, or you could do nothing. It's really up to you. But either way, thanks for watching this. This is Nsima the Centaur Inyang from Break the Bar, be an anomaly, and I will talk to all of you very, very soon.